Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Ryan, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer at Rays of Gratitude. And today we have the honor of having Dr. Christine Figgener here, the Sea Turtle Biologist and Time Magazine's Next Generation Leader in 2018. So thank you so much for being a part of our Ocean Guardian series. We're so happy to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a real honor.
Thank you. So I want to start out by you telling us a little bit about your background and how you got into marine conservation.
Yeah, I think for me, it started already as a kid. So I really wanted to be an ocean explorer. That was really where it all started. I'm an inherently curious person. I always like to understand how things work. And I think it is very difficult to go through this world and trying to figure out how it works with not noticing that a lot of things are not going so well, and actually we're losing species, we're losing ecosystems, we're losing habitats at an unprecedented, well, like it's so quick that we are barely able to study it before it's already gone, right? So I think that was also something that really early on when I started reading up, like my big love as a child were whales, humpback whales. And so when I started reading about the humpback whales, it was also always with things like whaling and ocean noise and whatever not. And so I think really quickly it also became a quest in not only studying these animals, but also conserving animals, right? And conserving what we maybe still have left on this planet. Because I think the other thing is that is was very clear to me is that a lot of those things happen not because of natural causes, but because of us humans, right? The way how we live, how we, well, yeah, just go through life pretty much. And yeah, so I became a marine biologist and always had this idea that I hope that I can use my science for the good, for doing, like, putting my grain of salt, that will help to provide better information so we can protect animals better. And then only over some kind of winding roads, I actually kind of swerved away from humpback whales and then became a sea turtle lover. I mean, sea turtles were great already. I think they're just, one of the big fives underwater, I would say, like charismatic megafauna. But it wasn't up until my master's program that I actually had the chance to even see a nesting sea turtle for the first time, and a leatherback turtle for that as well. And I was just falling in love pretty much instantly.
Yeah. You were the face behind the viral straw video that kind of led to a worldwide straw. People would stop using straws because of the video that you posted. So that's that's amazing what you've done for turtles so far. And it's really amazing to hear about your background too, as well. I grew up on an island as well. So I feel that childhood love of wanting to protect the ocean. Um, so that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I do want to hear a little bit about what projects you're currently working on. I know you're based in Costa Rica. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing currently?
Yeah, so with the years that I've spent in Costa Rica, so I moved there during my master's pretty much, or like right after, in my early 20s, and I worked for different projects. And so two things that really, well, didn't go unnoticed by me, I think, working for a different organization, was one, that we are overstudying nesting beaches and nesting sea turtles. So thinking that sea turtles still, even nesting females, spend 90% of their time in water. It is a little bit concerning also because a lot of the threats that are happening are in water, right? If we talk plastic pollution, if we talk industrial fishing, it's all in water. It's not on the nesting beaches. So that is one thing. And I also think that sometimes our emotions, when we are talking about conserving something, are kind of switching off our brains. And so we're not using the best available data to really get the biggest bang for our bucks. That's what I call it, right? So conservation already is very limited by funding. because we're not getting funding from governments. Usually we are all privately financed through donations and maybe some, fundraising elsewhere. So that means we have to really, well, be very wise about how we use our money when we are doing conservation. And so sometimes it just drove me nuts that looking at it, and a lot of projects, not all of them, are really not guiding their measures by, by science pretty much. So that's number two. So we're overstudying females. We do not know a lot about the in water, the stages in water. We are not kind of using data to inform our conservation measures. And the other thing that was really concerning to me is that conservation a lot of times is still in the hands of the global north, right? So it's universities from the global north, it's NGOs from the global north that are dominating the landscape, and also putting somewhat a glass ceiling for local people to even move up in ranks and have certain higher positions. And they're also very detached from what's really going on, because I'm a German living in Costa Rica for close to 20 years, and I'm very aware of that my upbringing will always be an obstacle in understanding really the local culture. So this is the reason that I have Costa Ricans that work with me, and that I'm always saying, I think this is the time where you guys need to step in, because with me and my Germanness, I don't think I can comprehend, and I don't think I can even talk to the people in the way that they will understand. So I think this is what conservation is also lacking still here in Costa Rica, but also in a lot of other places, is the local involvement, the local empowerment, where we have a lot more respect for local knowledge as well, and that there is a unity, that we're actually working together, because I think both sides have very valuable skills and very valuable knowledge, but it's they don't communicate with each other, right? So one thinks the other one is kind of not understanding them, not maybe having the quality of work or whatnot. So yeah, so I think this was one of the other things that I noticed. And so in 2014, I founded an organization called the Costa Rican Alliance for Sea Turtle Conservation and Science, with pretty much local colleagues, right? So people that have been working in sea turtle conservation for decades. And yeah, so we founded this group, and we're trying to inject more science into conservation. We're trying to empower locals, trying to create win-win situations if we are doing conservation in different places. And also, and that is really important to me, I really hope to empower women, because I think that a lot of the conservation issues that we have could be very effectively solved with the more involvement of women, because they have a totally different outlook on life. And yeah, it's just that certain society limitations are still preventing women to get heavily involved, unfortunately.
Yes. And I do love that you are working so closely with local Costa Ricans in your work. Our partners, the Hawksbill Project out of England, that's a huge part of their mission, is to work with the local entities and not against them or for them, but with them. So that's really beautiful. I'm glad that you're highlighting that as well. That's a part of our mission that's really close to our hearts. So, I do want to hear a little bit about your book, My Life with Sea Turtles, and a little bit about your experience writing it and how you came about with, or how you came up with the idea of this book.
Yeah, as you already mentioned, my 8 minutes of fame. Well, you said I'm the face behind the video. I always say I'm the voice behind the video, because I'm like the narrator, right? It was really funny because some people recognized my voice when it just first came out, like some of my old students or like former
Yeah.
students. They're like, Chris, is that you? This is you, right? I recognize your voice and cursing. Um, Anyways, so the lesson I've learned through that video, because a lot of people, of course, didn't know about me or anything before that video, but of course I had already almost 10-year career in sea turtle conservation before
Right.
that video even came out. And I guess what I didn't do before was that I wasn't heavily involved in communicating the stuff that I was doing. And I think the other thing I've learned being here in Costa Rica for such a long time is that, yes, it is important that we act locally as well, but a lot of the threats that we're facing are not locally, they're actually globally. And I think, as I said in the beginning already, they have something not to do with, single people, I don't know, go and harvest sea turtle eggs, for example, illegally. Of course, that is also a problem, but it has a lot more to do with us and our lifestyles everywhere, right? So even if you don't live close to the ocean, if you live like slap in the middle of the US, somewhere in, I don't know, Idaho or whatever not, there is still, you're still somehow connected to the big circle of life. And the issue really is that I try to make people understand that we all need to pitch in order to save sea turtles. I'm not going to save sea turtles single-handedly. And it's not just about sea turtles, it's actually about the health of our oceans, right? And sea turtles are just one very charismatic species within the ocean. And so when I started with the video after that, I kind of had this aha moment that it's like, okay, I think we need to communicate more about what we're seeing, what people can do, because I don't even think that people are indifferent to it. I just think they a lot of times don't know of, the connections. And so I started my journey in science communication or communication in general. And then I was approached by a publishing house, actually by two, one American and one German one, but I decided to go with the German one just because it's my native language. Um, to if I was interested in writing a book, and if I wrote a book, like what I would like it to be. And so I sat down and just kind of thought about, okay, what are really the messages? What is important to me? And of course, yeah, I love sea turtles. So I want people to learn more about sea turtles because I really firmly believe that we only protect what we love and we only love what we know, right? So if we get the same, or if I get people to fall in love with sea turtles, to kind of develop the same fascination that I have, that other people have with sea turtles, maybe they do care a little bit more about these animals and also their habitat, right? And all the things that we can do at home to help them out pretty much and kind of give them a future. And so this is really what the book is about. And it's not, even though I think the official category, it's a popular science book, at least that's how it was categorized in Germany. But even I myself, I'm not the biggest fan of popular science books or like science books in general. I have to read them in my profession, but it's not really what I take into bed or into the hammock to kind of have a good time. And I really do want people that are maybe not that connected to the issue, reading it, non-scientists, people that have never heard about it. And so I also wrote it a little bit as an autobiography. So, injecting a little bit from my life, growing up and also becoming a sea turtle biologist with, funny, adventurous, sometimes dangerous anecdotes, to make people understand, right? The human perspective of me being involved in sea turtle conservation, the obstacles, the hardship, the beauty of it. And on the side, also learning something about sea turtles, almost unnoticeably, hopefully. It's like not ashore. Yeah, so this is the goal of the book. I just hope that people, pick it up and just have a good time reading it, learning something, and hopefully walk away with this urge to do something for these animals.
Yes, that's beautiful. And we've heard such wonderful things about it. So I know that people love it so much. I want to kind of wrap up everything today. We always ask our guests if they would highlight an issue in conservation that we face as conservationists, that they would like someone who's not knowledgeable about this field to know. So if you could highlight that a little bit.
Well, I think I mentioned already some of the issues, and I think they're all somehow interconnected as well.
Mhm.
I think, first of all, the funding. Unfortunately, conservation is still not regarded as some kind of a valuable service that we're actually giving the world, right? Because it's not a product that we are handing over if somebody gives us money, for example. It's also not a service like plumbing, for example, like, your pipes burst and you're calling the plumber and they're going to fix your pipes. But it is a service because what we're actually doing, I mean, yeah, I'm protecting sea turtles, but in the bigger picture, we are actually also protecting, conserving, restoring the life basis that we humans depend on, right? Because we need clean water, we need clean air, we need pollinators, we need a healthy ocean system. So I think this is really, where I would love for our world to actually see the value and also put the value right there in a monetary way, that we actually have the tools that we need to do our work. Because the other problem that we have a lot of times is that there is not that many people that really want to work in conservation, because first of all, maybe they're not able to, because it's not very well paid, or they're not sticking around for long enough, because you have to make a lot of sacrifices still in order to work in conservation, right? So not everybody feels like they want to give up their entire life, maybe the chance of having a family and whatnot, just to work in conservation. I understand that. And I think, if we would fix the funding situation, I also think that we would open the doors to a more diverse, array of people that would work in conservation, which also means we would have maybe more local involvement, more indigenous people that are able to, also have a monetary incentive to really go into conservation. Um, yeah, and I think there's still a lot of professions that we would need in conservation, like thinking about marketing, thinking about not the biological sciences, actually like all the other stuff. That we usually don't have, because people, of course, in the free market are making a lot more money than in conservation. If you're a communications major, you're definitely probably going somewhere in the industry rather than in conservation. So this is again, the funding kind of situation. But yeah, so this is kind of the big scheme of things that I think we're facing. But the bottom line is, conservation needs to happen if we as a species want to have a future on this planet.
Yes, that's such a good point that I don't think has been highlighted yet in any of our interviews is so that's a really amazing perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I want to also just thank you for being a part of this series today. It was such an honor to have you, and it's so wonderful to talk to you. So we really appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, all right. And I will hopefully speak to you soon.
Yes, see you.